Shot YouTube channel, where we are here for the match preview against Spurs away. No, I'm not Scott. No, I'm not Matty. I am your host, Joe, and with me are the ever-present, ever-magnificent Andy and Daryl. Lads, how we doing?
Mint. Happy to be ever present.
Mint.
Maybe we'll get our own slide on the intro now.
Hang on. Maybe. Now, we're going to dive into this preview, but before we do, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
Gallagher Shots Match Preview is brought to you by Magpin. Magpin are the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamel pin badges of Newcastle United players, legends and retro kits. For more information, visit their website at magpinbadges.bigcartel.com.
Absolutely spot on. Daryl, do you have anything from Magpin? Because I've got quite a few things.
You know what it is? I haven't actually, but I do like all that. Like I like looking at all of the bits they've got on offer. There's some cracking stuff there.
I've got the goalkeeper key ring is what it's absolutely lush. Anyway, right. So we are currently recording this on the Friday, the day after what has been a bit of a difficult watch. Right, Andy, I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but we're going to have a quick recap of that Everton game because it is significant given that it's such a quick turnaround. Is it just a case of we were absolutely fatigued and without any real impact off the bench, it was just too much for the lads?
Yeah, I think you've come to me first because I was probably the most depressed in the chat after the game. But yeah, it was one of those where we knew we were due a bad performance, a leggy performance. I just wish it wasn't against them, and I wish it wasn't against him. And I know who you know who I'm talking about. But yeah, it was obviously a really poor performance. I think we didn't really start strongly. Obviously, fatigue has been coming into the end of the games, but even from minute one, it was very reminiscent of the Bournemouth performance. Lots of loose touches, loose passes. When we got the chances, we were snatching at them. Miggy snatched at one, Gordon snatched at one, Isak fluffed his lines on one as well. It was just one of them. Get annoyed about it on the day, but then move on and step back and realise that, you know, the lads are in a really tough position, and then dust yourselves down and go to Spurs and try and get a result there. It's tough point in the season. But yeah, we've made it halfway through this sort of horrendous run, and you know, we haven't come out of it too bad so far. So fingers crossed.
No, we haven't. We absolutely haven't. And I think pretty much all fans are of the understand. You know, they understand that we're in a very difficult position in the amount of injuries that we've got. I hate to use the word, but it's almost unprecedented, really. So the lads are giving everything they've got, and I suppose this has been compared to Bournemouth quite a bit, where it was maybe one game too soon. We then had the international break, but between, you know, the League Cup games and then the Champions League games, it's been a lot. But go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday, and it's a big game. Bearing in mind we did the double over them last season. Daryl, compared to last season, Spurs are a different beast, aren't they? A completely different unit, and dare I say it, potentially a little bit better without Harry Kane. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Well,
I'm just putting the cat amongst the pigeons here.
Well, yes, they are a slightly different beast to what they were last season. The fabled Ange ball that so many love to give praise about, but hasn't been getting them results lately, is something that I think may come back to haunt us. I think I'm very worried going into this game, given what we saw at Everton. Andy mentioned about the fatigue. It's the mental fatigue as well as the physical fatigue that's a problem. You know, we saw it against Bournemouth, and we desperately needed that international break for the lads to get over it. But unfortunately, as we've entered this tough period of the 10 games in 31 days, it's only taken to the fourth game of that run for us to really get to the state we were in against Bournemouth, if not even slightly worse, because of the way that the Everton game played out towards the end. I mean, physical fatigue you can sort of manage in a game just by sitting back and weathering storms and just keep trying to shut opposition teams out. But when you end up with the mental fatigue, and I hate to dig out Kieran Trippier because he's been a superb servant to the club in his time here, but you know, those two errors don't happen if he isn't, if he's in a good place mentally, those errors don't happen and we don't concede those 2 goals. But anyway, I digress. If we go back to last season, when we rightly say we did the double over Spurs, who can forget the 6-1 at home at St James's? That was easily the best game of the whole of last season in the whole of the
I think
Premier
their
League. Never
fans
mind
probably
just
have
ours.
forgot about it.
Well,
We tried
I
to
think
forget about it.
they've
Half
buried
them
all
left
that
for full
PTSD.
time, so
Yeah, they've buried all that PTSD into their bins, really, haven't they? Really, and just kept it all there. But in terms of the game down at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which was last October, again at the same kickoff time, at 4:30 as we will have on Sunday this week, we beat Spurs 2-1. We went 2-0 up in that game, and Harry Kane himself pulled one back. We'll remember, if I may divulge everybody's memories, and remember that the opener was a Wilson goal that he scored from outside of the box after a huge error from Hugo Lloris. And despite his protestations of a foul and whatnot in the build-up, it was never going to be ruled out. And then a wonderful goal from Almiron, who cuts in from that right wing in his little purple patch, if you all remember, at that time of last year. And he cut in and he just slotted it past Lloris to make it 2-0 in that first half. And we were cruising at that point, and we did, again, a bit like this season at times, we've had to weather the storm in that second half. And we did really well to shut them out with just that one goal to concede with Harry Kane. And something else I just wanted to highlight as well going into this game is our record at the new Tottenham Stadium. And we've played 4 games, we've won 2, drawn 1, and lost 1. So our record down at the new stadium is actually pretty decent. White Hart Lane in its old form was never the best of hunting grounds for us, even though I can remember seeing us win there 4-1 during the second coming of Keegan. And Obafemi Martins was on the score sheet that day, as well as many others. A couple of goals. Jose Perez scoring a very late winner with a half volley. Tim Krul's superb solo effort in shutting them out when we beat them 1-0 with, I think, a Loic Remy goal. And there's been a couple of others. I think there was a 3-2 in there.
Well,
as well.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but our first game there was on a beautiful August day when a certain number 9, Joe Linton, scored his first goal for the club.
That's right, yeah, with a great assist from Atsu. So, the new stadium has been quite fruitful to us, but the old one had its, we had some good results there, but it was mainly a horrible place for us to visit. I remember being there in person for a 4-0 loss, albeit in the League Cup.
I was there for that. Please don't bring that
one
up.
No, that's it. It's done now. It's out of the way. So the old place wasn't great, but the new place is, like I say, has been proven to be quite fruitful for us. So there's definitely positives to take there. But however, I'm very worried, given the state the lads are in mentally and physically, and how desperate we really are for the lads who are injured, at least some of them, just to come back in as soon as possible, just so the other lads can have a bit of a rest.
Yeah, now, Andy, Daryl says he's quite worried, and on the face of it, it does look like a pretty minging fixture to have on the back of Everton away. But if you look at Spurs' form, it's not been great. They've lost, 4 of the last 5, including a 2-1 loss to West Ham, albeit they did have a fantastic draw against Man City. But the problem is they're conceding a lot. Major exploit that we can have in their defense. I mean, they, like I say, they can't seem to keep a clean sheet. For the most part, we've been really good at scoring, albeit against Everton. The lads did look quite tired and their shooting boots weren't on. And I did feel in the final third, decision-making from the likes of Gordon and Miggy wasn't quite up to their usual standard. But do you think we can get in behind that defense and cause them a lot of problems?
We can, although I've got a quick statistic for you.
Oh, go on.
Which Opta posted before, and it turns out the best thing to do against Spurs is go 1-0 down, because they are the first team the first team in Premier League history to fail to win 5 consecutive games after going 1-0 up. So they've gone 1-0 up every game. They've gone 1-0 up this season. They've lost.
Wow.
Well, 5 in a row. Which
that is impressive.
And it's 3 consecutive at home as well. But just to touch on your point on Spurs, because I've gone on a bit of a rabbit hole for Spurs. The only wins they've actually had this season: Palace, Fulham, Luton, Sheffield United, Burnley, Bournemouth, Man United, who are group in with them now. And then Liverpool, which was the ridiculous game when Liverpool got 2 red cards and there was that really, really dodgy offside, which was very, very dodgy. So I do really like what Postecoglou does. He's obviously got this like bubbly personality that everyone likes because he's just sort of some lad down the pub, but he's obviously a very good manager, and he's instilled that belief and that gung-ho football in them very early, which, coming off the back of Conte and Mourinho, all those players are probably sick of the life, and to turn that mentality around so quickly is being good to see. And we've obviously seen them do ridiculous things, like at Chelsea when they were down to a 5-a-side team and they were still pushing for goals and they let Nicholas Jackson score a hat-trick. Just ridiculous. But in terms of us, can we hurt them? Well, every other team seems to have. They all seem to be scoring goals against them. You definitely don't want Spurs players, defenders in your fantasy team. But like you say, in that Everton game, we just seem to snatch at so many things. I think Gordon was maybe a bit different. I don't want to give the Everton fans too much credit, but I do think they got to him and he was snatching at things. He didn't really want to run with the ball, and he got that chance when he won it high up and fluffed it. And it was like, but that wasn't exclusive to him. Everyone was doing that. So hopefully that Everton game, it's got the sort of crapness out the system, and we can turn up there and go there really focused. And we'll have a good away following behind us. I just think what we have to do is go 1-0 down, and then we'll smash them.
Smart. Now, well, before we move on to Newcastle itself, I do want to quickly touch on one player in particular who started life really well at Spurs, but with him being missing, seems to have coincided with a loss of form, and that's James Maddison. Now, you've had some players like I can always pronounce his name right. Is it Kulusevski?
Kulusevski.
Yes, and
Swedish one,
and Lo Celso. I mean, they're coming in, and Brennan Johnson as well. He's another new signing. They seem to have bolstered their attacking line, and they seem to, have these options in both the central and wide areas. But I mean, obviously, like I say, he started really partnership with Son. As soon as he's come out the equation, that don't seem to be quite clicking. I mean, obviously, Son is a world-class player, but do you think that could be one of the reasons why they've had this big dip in form, alongside, the fact that arguably got harder fixtures?
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you talk about Son, because I think he picked up an injury in that game against West Ham, so he's a bit of a doubt for this one on Sunday.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, they do have a lot of players who can hurt us in attack. A lot of quality in attack as well. And you're right when you talk about James Maddison as well, because they really do miss him when he's not there. But again, we miss some of our key players when they're not in the team. We only have to mention how much Bruno is to us. He's so important to our game plan, and we don't win when he doesn't play. So each team has that in abundance with certain, like, their highest quality players. When they aren't playing, they have issues. I think, again, we do have that quality to hurt them in attack ourselves. But again, the overriding problem that we'll have on Sunday is going to be the fatigue, and that's the biggest concern for me. But yeah, look at Spurs. You have to admire, because they are committed to Ange Ball, and I think whatever he does and says to them in the dressing room is they don't change. Their style is consistent, even if it means that they are leaky at the back.
Now, Andy, moving on to our lot. Right, dare I ask, do you think we'll see any rotation on Sunday? Now, if you look at the bench, if you look, what is a rotation? If you look,
Siri, what is a rotation?
The bench, if you look at the bench on Thursday, I mean, obviously, besides the kids, we had, I think Kraft was back, Matt Ritchie, and Lewis Hall. I'm thinking, obviously, you've had Everton on Thursday, Spurs away on Sunday, and then you've got the really, really small game coming up midweek. Do you think now is the time where we might see some players coming in, the likes of Lewis Hall, maybe for, I don't know, an Almiron, or like, I don't know. He seemed to switch this up a little bit. Like during the Everton game, you had obviously Isak going on the left and Gordon coming into the middle and stuff. And we've seen Lewis Hall get played in midfield. So, Andy, I mean, do you think that we might even see one or two changes just to give some of the lads a rest?
Yeah, there's got to be part of Eddie Howe thinking, do I just tank this game and get, like Daryl likes to say, a clean bill of health into that Milan game? Because in the grand scheme of the season, that Milan game is more important. As much as you don't want to go into any game with a defeatist attitude, you've got to at some point give these lads a rest, because they must. I mean, we keep saying it over and over again, but they must be absolutely knackered. Poor Anthony Gordon, man. As soon as Harvey Barnes is back, he needs a kip. He must be absolutely shattered. But yeah, can we do it? Well, I mean, Howe obviously trusts Richie and he trusts Dummett and he trusts Kraft because he has played them before. I think he just doesn't want to. He's very much, even when we have a squad, he doesn't like to disrupt the team. We saw that even when Bruno first came to the club, and he didn't want to put him in straight away. So how, if there's a criticism of his management, it's that he doesn't really like to use his bench anyway. We see that quite often in games where he doesn't like to make subs until everyone's on death's door. But you've got to think he's got to be sat with those sports scientists today and tomorrow, and speak to Tyndall and the rest of his coaching staff. They've got to be saying to him, look, if you can, you've got to give Shara a rest. You've got to give Gordon a rest, because these lads will just keel over. We saw Lascelles have a dead leg. Trippier was clearly struggling. If it wasn't physically, you could tell he just couldn't concentrate because he must have been so tired. Shah, he managed to get outran by Beto, who is the slowest player I've ever seen. So there's clearly struggles everywhere. So if we are going to do it, we've got to try and do it now. Say to Lewis Hall, look, you haven't set the world on fire, but look, there you are. Get yourself on the pitch, do something. Because for me, the priority is that Milan game. But as we've seen with the squad, every single one of them, even the kids, knows what Eddie Howe wants. So we know they'll do it right tactically. It's just whether the quality will come through.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to touch on something as well, which is a bit of a wider point, Daryl, and that's our away form. At home, we're an absolute monster. I think we've only lost to Liverpool at home this season. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I
think that's
but
right.
I think we've only taken 5 points away from home this season. It's quite a weird issue, because when you're on the face of it, it's still a football pitch. It's still 11v11, but clearly there seems to be an issue, and obviously it doesn't help when you're playing so many games in a row, and a lot of them midweek are away. But why do you think that we're just struggling so much?
I think it is actually down to the volume of games, to be honest. I think, when you think about last season, we were actually quite solid both home and away last season. And as we all know, we lost only 5 games in the whole of last season. And this season, because we've got all these extra games, we just haven't got the energy reserves to consistently perform at that high press. We haven't, the energy levels aren't there to play that style of football in every single game. And we are feeling the results of that in the lads in the legs. We saw it at Bournemouth, we saw it at Everton. There's been other games this season where I think Brighton is an example as well. They just didn't seem to be able to click, and I think it is down to the volume of games, and even more so in the last couple of months where the injuries have really been piling up. And as you mentioned before, it's an unprecedented injury list, and unfortunately, we've had no option but to play consistently the same 11 for 90 minutes up to 3-4 times a week. The 3 games in a week, in the last week, in this week, and then again on Sunday, and then again next week. Unless we start to see bodies come back, this is going to be a massive problem for us playing away from home. It's easier to do it at home because the crowd can get you through it. We all know what it's like at St James's. We can get a team through a game if needs be. Away from home, as much as our away support is good and it's one of the best in the land, it's not enough because there's only a small section of them. Whereas you've got 50-odd thousand Geordies at St James, it's a completely different ballgame. And I do worry, and just to go back on what we were talking about in terms of rotation, I'm absolutely praying that Sven Botman's come through this week unscathed and he can come into the team on Sunday, because, like you say, Lascelles or Shea, either of them, they need a rest ahead of the massive game in the middle of next week.
There's been reports as well, just to jump in there, that Longstaff and Wilson are near enough there, might be there for Spurs as well. So,
well, if that's the case,
I
get them
really
in.
hope.
Still a little injury dance, and hopefully we'll be fine.
Yeah, I know this seems like quite a weirdly. It might feel a bit of a negative preview, this one, because we've encountered a bit of a obviously a bad result with Everton and the amount of injuries that we've got. But I think, barring barring any other injuries aside, I do think this is going to be probably one of the lowest points, so to speak, with so many players coming back. I can just see us surging on in January and, being able to deal with these games. You got the FA Cup coming up. Hopefully we'll have European football of some description. And I'm really looking forward to seeing a fully fit squad or a near enough fully fit squad take on these games.
Yeah.
We're doing so well. With the lads that are on the pitch. I mean, for God's sake, Lewis Miley, like, we can talk about him for a little bit. For 17 years old, his decision-making on the ball, shots or scuffed it or panicked, but he's so composed. And I think Eddie has done very well to identify that and say, you're not going on loan. I'm going to bring you into this team. And he's obviously paying dividends and he's showing what he's worth. And it's just, whilst we can say this has been a really difficult period, some small shining lights like the likes of Lewis Miley coming into the forefront of the team has got to be something that we have to cherish. And it's good because with the likes of Tonali being out as well, we were worried that January was going to be a desperate scramble for a new midfielder. And it might be the case that we don't actually need that anymore. It's hard to say. You never know. But now we come on to the best part of the show, which is the predictions. Go on, Daryl, you're smirking. I'm gonna let you take this one first, mate.
Oh God, you really do have to do it, don't you?
Come on, you negative Nancy.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? It's Groundhog Day. I'm saying the same as I said for Everton: 1-1 and a clean bill of health. Please, a clean bill of health. For God's sake, no more injuries.
That's worth 3 points in itself, man.
Do you know what it is? I'm going to say this now. You just touched there about the injuries and if we'd had a fully fit squad and all that. We are not having these conversations if our squad is there. If the squad is fully fit, we aren't having these conversations. Granted, we don't even have to have the conversation about Lewis Mendy because he wouldn't have had a chance to break into the team. However, we aren't feeling the way we are now if that squad is fully fit, because I'm absolutely certain that we would have picked up wins in some of these games that we've struggled in. Bournemouth away, Everton yesterday, as
That's
we
a frustrating thing. Aye,
it is. If we had a fully fit squad and we were able to rotate properly, we wouldn't have lost those games. And you could probably add another couple onto that as well before the international break. So the positive is get the lads back who are injured, and then we can really start to use the squad properly, rotate. There's plenty of strength in our depth, as we've seen. And yeah, just a 1-1 draw and a clean bill of health, please, because we know what Wednesday means.
Daryl, you've really perked me up. I'm feeling good. I'm starting to reevaluate my prediction now. Andy, go on. As Daryl's speech spurred you on. Oh god, that's a really bad turn of phrase given who we're playing, but
yeah, very good. Well,
good.
I feel like I cannot reel off me stat about Spurs going 1-0 up and then not use that for me prediction, surely. So I fully agree. I mean, the opposite to your prediction would be a 6-0 win and everyone hobbles off injured, I suppose. I won't do that this time. No, I agree. Getting through the other side of the game, even if we just put a good shift in, a better performance than Everton is a good result. And I know that's really, really negative, but we are still a mint team. So I'm really struggling with this one because obviously, away from home we just look so different. But I won't waffle on. I'm gonna stay positive and say we're gonna do that. We're gonna come back from behind, which makes no logical sense at all. But I'm in my festive Newcastle jumper. I'm feeling all merry. So we'll win. However, come on, let's be positive.
How many?
2-1.
5-0.
Yeah, no, they'll go 1-0 up, 2-1. Let's say we'll win a very dubious penalty to equalise, and then Ange Ball will go too far. We'll take the ball off Basuma's feet, run through, and Matt Ritchie will bury one and kick the corner flag because we need that before he retires.
I look forward to catching that corner flag in the way and then.
Yeah.
Very expensive corner flags, given how much that stadium costs. I imagine.
Yeah.
Well, you know what it is. I can't bring the mood down by predicting a loss now, can I? You know what it is, right? I think both teams are going to score. It's almost written. There's no way that this can be a 0-0. Clip that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 1-1. I think we'll do very well to get ourselves a draw. As much as I hate saying that, under normal circumstances, I'm never one that says, "Oh, a draw," because I think you've always got to look to win every game. But you know, circumstances dictate that we're probably gonna have to settle for something like this. Yeah, I'm gonna say 1-1. I think Gordon will get back to his scoring form, and yeah, no more injuries. It would be nice. I think it'd be nice to see, like you say, Daryl, 1 or 2 players back from injury, even if it's just on the bench, just to give the lads a bit of a rest. And I think that's as good enough of a good result for me. Bring on Milan afterwards.
Revoke
But you know what it is, right?
So negative.
Don't
Such
revoke
a
your
negative
negative,
channel.
please.
Please don't.
Nah,
No,
probably
you know what it is, right? This team is capable of so much, and
Yeah.
I think we're capable mentally of getting over this defeat and bringing it on Sunday. So you never know what could happen. Team has done wonders. We've beaten Chelsea, beaten Man United, and I don't care what anyone says, we'll beat PSG away. So I think we can do it against Spurs. But, you know, I'm going to say 1-1. But anyway, is there anything else anyone would like to bring up? You got any more stats, Andy, before we finish off, or are you quite statted out?
I'm stat out.
Stat out,
Wow.
fair enough.
I'll tell you
I've
what.
only got a small pen of paper. It's ran out of space. So
I'll give her a closing thought. Right, we're not negative. We're looking at the bigger picture. We're coming together and making, reasonable judgments based on the information available to us. It's not negative. We're just realistic.
Nah, listen,
and we're sensible. It's sensible to think this. It's not
lads,
negative
we
to
are
think that we're not
absolutely
going to win a
mint.
game.
I've
We
unsubscribed.
are absolutely
from that.
mint. And listen,
Go
yeah,
on, sorry.
the lads that are on the pitch are doing absolutely mint. They're doing fantastic. They do not need to apologise for anything. When Kieran Trippier came over to the fans at the end of the game last night, he was trying to be apologetic. No need for it. They're doing so well. We're so proud of them. And you know, when more of the lads come back, they're gonna have a well-earned break. But Daryl, I'll let you get your tea. Andy, whatever you're doing tonight, enjoy.
Get me tea.
Thank you very much for watching this preview. Yeah, hopefully getting your tea. Thank you very much for watching this preview. We'll have reactions. We're going to have the Always Smiling Faces podcast. We'll have Canny Chatter back and all sorts. So don't forget to subscribe. And even better, become a member for just $2.99 a month. You get access to the Telegram group, which is absolutely buzzing.
Like buttons.
And all sorts. And like buttons, all them. You know what to do. Thank you very much. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.